Today, my guest is Andreas Sjölund, a former pro hockey player turned go-to-market leader, advisor, and investor. Over the past 20 years, he's built and scaled SaaS companies across markets, from co-founding Quinyx to his current role as Chief Revenue Officer at Ingrid. Originally from Sweden, Andreas now lives in Norway and has experience from both the US and the UK. He brings a truly international perspective on building and scaling companies. He is also part of the venture capital firm Atomico's professional network, where he advises portfolio companies on go-to-market and commercial growth. Welcome, Andreas.
Thank you so much.
It's always when people have long, impressive backgrounds, it challenges me with my long intros, but I'm trying to keep it short. But you have a very interesting background, so I'm looking forward to digging into that. Perhaps we can start a little bit with your experience as a professional hockey player. Tell me a little bit about that and how that has, if in any way, shaped your experience. Shaped your, you say, how you lead and how you perform in business today.
Yeah, no, but first of all, I wasn't a really successful hockey player, right? I didn't make millions of dollars and play in the NHL, but I did go and played in the farm teams, like 2 levels below the NHL, which was a great experience, playing for 4 years, first in a team called Idaho Steelheads and then Adirondack Ice Hawks. But what it taught me in business is that the importance of teamwork, I think, is number one, right? You need to play your different positions the same way as in a company. You need everybody on the team, even, the trainers, the equipment managers, the coach, the goalie, the different positions on the field, right? So I think that's something that I try to, take with me into the business world. And when you build a team, that you think of everyone and that everybody contributes. So that's, I think, my biggest learning from the hockey career.
And Andreas, did you, when you were growing up, did you think hockey is the way for me to go, or did you know you were going to go into business? I mean, there are many kids who grow up thinking they're going to play in Scandinavia. It's football a lot, right? Or so when you were playing in the US, for instance, was that a full-time thing, or were you also working on the side?
It was a full-time thing, but so I got paid, but not that much. As I said, it paid the bills, and I got a car for free and lived for free. But I always had like that business mentality on the side.
Okay, Andreas, and let's take this now a little bit into your business career, and I want to hear about that. But before we go into that, I just want to hear your sort of definition of go-to-market. I mean, it can be pretty broad. So if you could try to, like, as simply as possible, like, how would you describe what go-to-market actually means?
Yeah, no, I think what first comes to mind is the value, right? You bring in something that brings value to the market. It's so easy to get, stuck on products and features and functionality, but at the end of the day, you need to bring some value that a customer is willing to pay money for, right? And the value needs to be more than the pain and what the customer pays for. So I think first of all, you have to start there, like what value are we bringing, and then you decide, okay, which ICP should we go to? Which of all these companies or all these people in this country or in this world can we serve the best, and then really define your ideal customer profile with ICP. And then it's, a lot of different things you can do with, how to present the solution the best way, how to, execute on a customer meeting to really find the pain and to really understand the metrics and the value you can give. But I think it all starts with the value and really remembering that when you plan your go-to-market.
And then I'm curious, I'll circle back and talk a little bit more about, or a lot more about the go-to-market and definitions of all this. But I'm curious, how did you end up in this domain, so to say? Was that random, or is that it's also a little bit sort of fishing here, and it might be completely off. But my view is that many Americans are perhaps stronger in this than we are in Scandinavia. So, and given that you lived in the US, I was wondering, is there any you think this has anything to do with you ending up in this domain, or?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think when I moved back from from the US, and I realized I wasn't going to make it to the NHL. I started studying, and I also listened a lot to Tony Robbins, which is like a personal development guru. I think both of those things helped me. And then I started with a company called Brave Time, and that was in the scheduling and time and attendance branch. A really kind of boring, old-fashioned part of the business, helping to scheduling and time clock people that are at work. But there I met a guy named Eric Fjellborg who had built a company called Quinyx, or built a product for McDonald's actually in Sweden. And I saw that this was web-based, this was colorful, this was user-friendly. It wasn't like the old systems looked like. So I really felt like this is the future, and this is something I really want to take to the market. Coming back to the value, this really brings a lot of value, not only to the companies, but also to the employees, which was important as well. So they can have a more flexible work week and impact when they work more. So we started working together, and I started selling that product like crazy. First in Sweden, and then out in the Nordics. And we were bootstrapped for about 7 or 8 years actually. Before, we were around 5 million euros in ARR when we brought in the first investment from an investment company called Avene Didrikson. And that made it possible. Like, okay, now we have this money. What should we do? And the first thing and that's what I really liked about Eric. From the first day, he was like, we're going to go international. And I wanted to do that, of course. And then the first stop we decided was England. So we moved to the UK. I brought with the family to London, and we set up an office there. And then it was a lot of hard work there. We thought that, we had McDonald's, we had Burger King, we had Max Hamburgers, even if they're not that big in the UK, this is going to be easy, right? So we went out and tried to sell to the McDonald's and Burger Kings in the UK, but they were just asking, what companies do you have in the UK? And we did, but we got McDonald's in Sweden. But we had one customer, the Mary Rose Museum, like a completely different business down in Portsmouth in South England. So we brought the customers there, and they really liked the product. They saw the value, and we treated, the Mary Rose Museum guys, well, and they really, helped us get the momentum that we needed in the UK. So I think that really is the key when you go into a new country. You need to understand, you really need local references fast. You need to put your face in the place as well. You need to be there yourself. It's hard to just hire people and then think you can steer everything from Norway. You really have to be there to understand the culture and meet the customers and show the value. So yeah, I think those are some key learnings from me going international with the companies.
You are in Atomical's advisory network on advising on go-to-market strategies. When you speak with companies and help them define or sort of adjust their go-to-market strategy, what are some of the questions that you ask first? Is it about the product, or is it about market, or where do you start?
Yeah, no, but it's first understanding again the value that their product is giving, right, and understanding the customer they sell to, the ICP, and then from that also other things like what's your average deal size, what's the deal length, and these things, so you get a feeling of also what the customers are willing to pay for the value that they bring.
And sorry for interrupting on this, but when you say the value of the product, for instance, how do you actually assess that? Because I assume there's something that the company thinks is the value, which might not always be the same as what the customer sees as being valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So you have to speak to the customers, right? You have to ask, interview the customers that are using the product. And I think that's the best marketing tool as well, right? You have customers talking about the value that they get from the product they use. So I think exactly that. Talk to the customer, what value they get. And then, try to see ask customers if you're going to the UK, for example, or the Netherlands, also test with a few accounts. We're just here to see what you think about this product. Would this be something that would be interest of you? Then you can also understand that, if there's a fit in that geo as well.
But if you, and this is a very practical question, but when you speak to customers. How do you typically go about that? Is that booking like 30-minute interviews, or is it surveys, a combination? How would you? And I guess it varies, but how would you typically do it?
Yeah, no, I would do for an interview. Like, you get so much more information. I think it's hard also to get people to answer surveys. Everybody has so much to do, but try to really go there, meet the persons, or do it online and get just 30 minutes of their time and ask, go a little bit deeper, like how they use a product, what they're missing today, what's, standing out, and why they chose to go with this product instead of the competition. So I definitely think doing some more deep dive interviews with existing customers, that's how you find out the best.
And I think it's such an undervalued or underused thing to do. I worked in management consulting, and we would do due diligences, and we would have to call the clients. The clients of the companies we represented, and often we would get so many insights from speaking to the clients. I remember thinking, why on earth have they not done this themselves? But many companies do not. Maybe they just don't take the time, but there's so much value to get. And also as an opportunity for upselling, right? Because you understand, like, okay, we're serving this, but they actually have these needs. And it's a very sort of, at least I find, a non-intrusive way, or less selly way, if you can call it that, to learn more about what you can actually eventually sell to them.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And especially with SaaS as the bow tie model, if you heard about that from Jacob van der Kooi and Winning by Design, it's in SaaS, you have the marketing funnel and you do the activities and you sell the product. But then it's so important to keep the customers happy and have customer success management and do ROIs with your customers so that they also can prove the value internally and they can become champions internally. And then you use that to market the product. So it becomes, like a machine or a factory as they speak about. But I think that's something that is easy to forget when you grow in the beginning. You're all about getting new customers, right? And that's where you focus everything on. But don't forget your existing customers, because they can also, of course, they are paying the bills and they can also be a great lead generator if you do it correctly.
And maybe just to double click on that one, do you think the importance of upselling is increasing? Again, sort of, I'm very sort of fishing here. Just, there's so much noise out there, and it's from what I see and what I understand, it's getting more and more difficult to sell. So I'm wondering also if there's more focus on trying to upsell to existing clients, and that customer success is in many cases also becoming even more sales. Is that something you are seeing, or is it just my sort of a description here?
No, that's completely. I fully agree with that. It's so much noise out there with like the AI agents now. They're sending out automatic emails, creating automatic, content, and it's all over your inbox and also your LinkedIn box. And I think you have to. It's easier to sell to your existing customers. And something that I really are passionate about as well is working with partners. So usually, if you have a product, you're in some type of ecosystem, right? And if you partner up with the right strategic partners that are good to work with, and where your product is elevating the full experience, and you work with them to invite your customers to an event, for example, and they invite their customers, and then it's a great mix. You just let the customers speak, and they talk about their experience with your products. And I think using partners, using your existing customers to both upsell but also get new deals is definitely an easier way than do cold outreach, which is so much harder today.
The partnership model is very interesting, and I've seen it work, and I've also seen it not work. So first of all, how do you think about, like, how would you find such a partner? Is that something that comes naturally because you end up often see them in the same conversations? Or if we start there, how would you find a good partner?
Yeah, no, we spent a lot of time with this both at Quinyx and also my current company Ingrid. So I see two types of partners. You have the the tech partners, the tech, in your ecosystem where you usually integrate with through APIs or other ways. So that's usually a partner that has the same goals as you have. They also want to increase their ARR. And they also want to, get the customers live as fast as possible. So I think that's one important part of the customers. But then you also have the agencies. Usually have, SIs or service implementators that are also helping customers to choose the product they would implement, and also are doing the actual implementation. And that helps if you're a SaaS company, that you don't have to hire, hundreds of consultants. You can work with SIs to help get the product out and so on. That takes a little bit longer time usually. So I would probably start maybe with the tech partners, but start building these implementation partners long term, because that will help you grow in the long term and also get access to customers you maybe wouldn't get access to through outbound, for example. So I think doing a really solid partner strategy. It's also what you usually do wrong is the same as the sales. You have sometimes you're selling too broad and you're going too broad on types of customers, and you're not sticking to the ideal customer profile. I think the same thing goes with partners. It's easy to try to work with everyone and then nobody gets happy because you're spread too thin. So you have to have like a ICP ideal, or IP IPP ideal partner profile. Maybe you can do that again, but you have ideal customer profile and ideal partner profile. I think you should work with both.
Yeah, that's why I was very curious on like the different types of partnerships, and seeing more this friendly collaboration, at least as we do now, without setting up all these commercial contracts between us, is something that we see working quite well.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I mean, reseller partners is really hard. I mean, it can work, of course, but you really need to put a lot of work into it. You need to have, partner managers or salespeople being at that partner all the time, trying to get, be top of mind and really work closely. So it's not just signing a reseller contract and think that everything's going to go by itself. I fully agree on that. And we actually got some help from a guy called Rich Gardner, who he was the senior VP partnerships at Klaviyo in the US. He's now working for Pavilion, which is a network, and leading that. And he has built a great partner program. And his number one lesson was, what is in it for the partner? You have to ask yourself, how can you make the partner better? Because it's so easy to sign partner programs and you get, all mad because the partners aren't delivering anything, right? But then you probably need to look at yourself and say, okay, but why would they sell our product? And are we selling their product, or are we giving them leads as well, right? So I think that's so easy when you set up a partnership program, you have those high hopes, and then now we're going to conquer the world. And then you don't, end up with anything. So I think you should always remember that, yeah, what's in it for the partner the same way as what's in it for the customer.
Yeah. And if we stick a little bit with the challenges, what are some of the most common mistakes or challenges you see with especially startups and scale-ups when it comes to go-to-market strategies or plays?
Yeah, I think number one, if you're going international and if you're going into a new country, I think you have to have your whole company behind it, and you need to have some patience, and you can't just go there and dip your toe in or do it halfway, with sending some emails and working with an agency and trying to get them to sell. You have to have like the full company and the board behind you. I also think one mistake that a lot of companies are doing, they're just hiring one person. I think in the Nordics, it's it can work, because it's so close, especially between Sweden and Norway. I think it can work, that if you're going to the UK, if you're going to Germany, US, Netherlands, so on, I think you need to have like a hub there. The best is if you can afford it to have like a hub with 3 people. So you have a salesperson, a technical person, and some kind of marketing resource. because that creates culture, that creates, teamwork in that hub. And then of course the best is if you can send a C-level or someone who's been in the company even longer to that country as well. But I think I see that so much, like, yeah, we want to go international, and then they just do it half-ass. And I haven't seen that work. So I think that's number one.
But one other thing was the connection with clients. I mean, things have changed also with video calls and all this, but how do you think that's critical in like actually showing up and meeting them in person rather than sitting in Oslo or Stockholm or Copenhagen or wherever on video?
Yeah, no, I still think that's important. It's I have a funny story. When we lived in the US, it was during COVID, and we had in the different states in the US, COVID was, very different depending on which political party you had, or like how you were handling it, right? But we were in Massachusetts, in Boston, but we met a company called Cisco that was down in Texas, and this was like during 2020, and nobody flew anywhere. And they said, yeah, we're interested in your solution here. You need to come down and see us. And we thought they were joking for us, like, it's COVID right now, right? It's not many planes going. Like, no, but we want to look in the eyes, and handshake is stronger than oak, and just so. But we use that, to qualify it even more. Like, yeah, like if we come, are we, do you think you will choose us, and so on. But then finally we went down, 4 people. It was totally empty on the airport. We went down there, went to like a Mexican restaurant, and in Texas, it wasn't like COVID existed, so everybody was out, drinking margaritas and eating tacos. But we met, and we ended up winning the deal. And I think if we wouldn't have gone down there, we wouldn't have won the deal. So it's very different. And I, of course, we have a hybrid working model at Ingrid, and we do a lot of, hybrid work, that we also meet a lot and have, get-togethers, and both internal in the company, but also with the customers. And I think that is still important, especially when you have complex, more enterprise deals.
Yeah. So summing that up, if you are to scale internationally, it is a good idea to actually make the move physically to that market.
Yes.
It makes sense. I say that a lot, but they can get some of those out, but it does make sense. One of the things I have thought a lot about, and I probably mentioned a bit too much in the podcast, but it takes a lot of my attention these days, is that it's becoming easier and easier to make software, which is cool with all these coding tool and all this. And from a guy who can't program, I think it's amazing to be able to try to actually build something. But that also means that the market is already flooded with a lot of software solutions, as more will come, which in my view will make it a lot harder to sell and a lot harder to cut through the noise. Do you think that has changed or will change what is important in sort of a go-to-market strategy and how you execute on it?
Yeah, no, definitely. As we spoke about both in the marketing piece, there's so much noise out there, but as you said, there's also so many different new products coming with, the AI functionality, and it's easy to sign up and try it for a while. And if it's good, you keep it. If it's not good, you stop using it. So I think we will see a change more and more to that, which will make it even more important with, as we spoke about, personal connections, working with partners, really being able to show value fast, and create a kind of community of users as well, where, people speak to each other. You should try this one. This has really helped me, and try to really set it up so you can have a community around your product as well. So I think we already see that there's, a lot of new companies, which is really exciting coming, right? With the help from Lovable and other, low code, no code solutions as well. But it's going to be important to partner up and create a strong ecosystem and network around your product.
You said the personal connection. Do you also think, does that play into how you sell? Because I can give you an example. Like, we're testing a bunch of AI solutions, and then we find something that actually works. And we're actually a little bit afraid sometimes of committing too much, because we know that it's changing so fast. So one of the other solutions could be better next month. And that's where I wonder, like, because we have no personal connection to any of these, it's a software tool. We might have spoken to a salesperson, but it's not like we have sort of long-standing personal relationships. I just wonder, and maybe it's a stupid question, I don't know if that would change if we had a deep personal connection with someone who knew our company. But do you think that one thing is SaaS companies, but like there's also services. I'm just wondering if that personal connection and the personal relationships will matter more. Again, sort of pointing the question a little bit, but it's perfectly fine to say say no.
Yeah, no, but I do think so. And I think also after COVID, it feels like a long time ago to continue speaking about COVID, but I think what we saw after that the need to meet people and to have events has gone even bigger, right? So we've had a lot of partner marketing events, as I mentioned, where we have different partners coming together. We're inviting a few of our customers and have like a nice dinner or a side event to one of the big, the National Retail Fair in New York, or if you have the Congress in Gothenburg or what have you, right? But really to create that network and community, I think is really important. And then, of course, then you learn about the roadmap. Maybe you don't have time to sit during a regular day and look at the roadmap for all the different solutions you're using. But when you're there, you get the chance to hear about this and excite you, and you get a face behind the software, so to say. So I do think that will continue, and it will be even more important to get people to meet as well.
I feel, and it may be just from my perspective, but I am hearing a lot more about go-to-market advisors these days from a lot of. So I work with a lot of startup companies, both as an investor and through Ambi, and we're just seeing go-to-market advisors being much more involved and much more present. Is that a trend? And if so, why? And you are an advisor yourself, so
yeah. No, but I had the fortune of getting help from a few great go-to-market experts myself during my time at Quinyx. So when we brought in our first investment, there was a company called Zubito that also invested in the company. They are the founders behind ClickView or ClickTech. So the former CRO from that company, he helped to be like a mentor for me to set up a sales process, how to work with a CRM system, and basic things that I haven't learned in university, or just building the company as fast as possible. So I think that really helped for me. And then when we brought in Battery Ventures, they also had like a guy called a CRO called Bill Binch, who was the CRO at Marketo and Panda.io, and he became a partner at Battery, helping their portfolio companies with things like commission plans and new ways of marketing your product, and software that he's been seeing being used at other companies and so on. So I think that really helped us in our growth. And now with Ingrid, we have an investment from Verdane, and they have their Elevate program, which I think is also really good. Where actually I'm going a course right now with Birte Steen, which is connected to Winning by Design, and that really supports the portfolio companies as well. And then of course you have individual persons as well that can help you. And maybe I'm biased, of course, but I really think it's good if you have done the journey yourself before. It's so much you can read and learn, online, of course, but to have a go-to-market expert that has, been in the trenches and done the work and see what's working and not. And of course, not everything is the same now, but at least, have seen it firsthand. I think that's something you should probably look for if you want to choose a go-to-market advisor.
But how, again, very practicable, how would you, it's typically on some sort of contract where they work with you maybe 1 or 2 days a week or 1 or 2 days a month, or how, and I guess there are different models again, but how do you see it being done, and how do you see it working?
Yeah. So, and I'm full-time and fully engaged in Ingrid right now, but I was a consultant for like a 6-month period between Quinyx and Ingrid. And what I did then was, and which I see other advisors are doing as well, there is different models, right? You can come in once per week and be like a a sounding board to the CEO or the CRO, which is one way of working that can be good. Another thing that is becoming more and more popular is having like a fractional CRO or CMO or CFO, where a person might come in not 5 times per week, but 3 days per week, and get the basics set up and get structure in the go-to-market plan and so on. So it depends, I think, of course, on the advisor, their way of working, but I think that both can work depending on if you have already your go-to-market machine set up and you might maybe need to fine tweak some things, then it can be good with a couple of hours per week maybe. But if you really need to build everything from the start, it can be good with a fractional CRO to come in and help.
I think the fractional setup is so interesting, and I think more companies should look for this. And also, as in recent years, sort of capital have been more difficult to find, so to say, for the startups and scale-ups, to have a sort of more economic model where you get top class, but you don't pay a sort of a full-time employee. That's I think that's very interesting, and I haven't seen a lot of companies do it, but I'm seeing more. What phase or where do you typically see it being used? Because the company you mentioned also Verdane, and they invest in growth companies, so maybe a later stage. Where do you see the fractional being used? Is it do you have to be beyond Series A, or is it like any typical pattern you see when this is most relevant?
Yeah, no, good question. I think probably right maybe before Series A, like when you're going from founder-led sales to creating that sales machine or that sales factory, I think that could be a pivotal moment where it can be good to come with someone without outside experience to come in and help, right? Because it's a lot of old truths and it's a way of selling that has worked amazing and that is really important in the start of a company. But when you come to 10, 20 million or 1 to 2 million euros, if we speak, in ARR, and you want to start scaling and you want to go maybe into another country, I think that's when it probably makes sense to go in. And then the next step could be when you reach 10 million euros, then you go to the next step. If you manage to grow with founder-led sales or build the machine yourself up until then, that could be the next pivotal moment when you might start coming closer to 100 employees. You need to make the switch maybe from having a big product team to focus more investments on sales and marketing and the go-to-market piece. So I think both like from early stage, like maybe before you take a Series A, to have like the foundation, and then also like to take it to the next step when you're up around 10 million euros.
And one of the things I really like about that model is that, do you know what great looks like? Maybe not, if you haven't worked as a CRO or CCO in one of these sort of super successful companies. So when people don't know what they don't know, that just to see, okay, it can actually be done in this way. It's structured. There's a model to it. I think that's where it can really add. There are many ways it can add value, but at least one of them where you get to see how it can be done by some of the best.
Yeah.
So really interesting model. And maybe you answered it a little bit before, Andreas, but what do you think? Now I'm meeting 2 go-to-market advisors. I'm going to hire one of them. What do you think separates a truly good one from just a mediocre?
I think the first one, as I mentioned, like you have to be in the trenches before, but let's say both of the candidates have done that. I think you also need to have that hunger and to have that grit also as an advisor, right? You need to be curious. You need to take someone, I think, with, of course, knowledge, but also the energy to really help you, because it is going through a tough part of the journey. It's also someone who can tell the truth and not, just say things that you want to hear, and also maybe go against, founder, CEO or CFO sometimes as well. So I think, if you have to choose between two, I think those characters are probably the best one.
Okay, that's good. I'll pick one of them. You're also an investor, and so we share a little bit of deals every now and then. And when you look at a potential investment, is there anything you look for in terms of go-to-market strategy that both could scare you off or that would attract you? I mean, I guess you could also help them with that if they have issues. But is there anything, given that you come from that domain, is there anything particular you look for or try to avoid?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's maybe that's a cliche, but it's a person, right? It's a person behind it. You know, do you believe in the founder and what that person stands for, and also connected to that, the vision. Like, are they thinking big enough? You know, of course, it's hard maybe when you're small and see yourself standing, you know, ringing the bell on New York Stock Exchange, but at least that you have that will to go big, right? With big ambitions and things like that. So I think that's the person and that ambition is number one. And then of course the go-to-market model, like that's something that, you know, that can be helped, I think. And as long as you have that ambition and willing to work hard and do the work that is needed to take the company there, I think that's number one. And it's coming back to what we talked in the beginning as well. I think the teamwork again has to be there, like that the person is good to build a team and inspire the team and build a team with a vision and where that company is going as well is key.
Are there any red flags? I mean, of course, if you don't like the founders, but anything related to go to market?
Yeah, good question. I mean, of course, again, coming back to the customers, if they don't have any customers, it might be a red flag, right? Because then the value is improved. And of course, there are seed investments you can do where they're still working on that. But I think even early stage, if you don't have a customer, it's going to be hard. So I think that's something that is a red flag. If they don't have like a paying customer, I would be a bit afraid of investing, I would say.
Jumping a little bit, Andreas, you see a lot of cool companies. You are a connected guy, and you have an international profile. So you know about what's going on in the market and what's hot. If you were to start a company today, what would that be? And where are the big opportunities in your mind?
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, what I've been working with before has been quite boring areas, right? With Quinyx, it's been, you know, scheduling, time and attendance, which is, and now with Ingrid, it's, you know, deliveries and connecting carriers to retailers, which, of course, I think is fun. I thought scheduling was fun as well, but maybe not everyone is, you know, waking up and thinking that that's the way they would change the world. But I think it's finding those things that, you know, boring things that can be helped through where you get more value from a SaaS solution or an AI solution. That's one area I would look in, like which areas are these boring ones, but that still needs to be sold and that companies, you know, will pay for and see a value. The other interesting aspect is a lot of, you know, health and longevity. I think that's a really interesting area as well, where it's happening a lot, you know, and it's hard also there to kind of filter what's working and not. But I'm trying a lot of different things like red light therapy, you know, different type of broccoli sprouts, ice bathing as well. That's
Andreas, I also want to get your sort of view on if there's any sort of resource, any podcasts or books or articles on go-to-market that you would recommend to, especially to founders or leaders who want to get better at this?
Yeah, so one thing that helped us a lot at Quinyx was Medic or Medpic. So John McMahon has written this book, The Qualified Sales Leader, and I think that's a really good book to read and very practical on how to, especially with enterprise sales, and how you build a qualification method to increase your win rate and increase your average deal size and so on. Then I'll,
Just want to ask about that. How did you then all read it, or people in the commercial team, sales team, and then you had sort of like a book club, so to say, to discuss what you learned from this? So how did you go about that?
We had it on our sales kickoff in 2020. So our VP sales in the US, Rob Desmond, he was a big believer in it, and he made me believe in it as well. So I got the book from him, I read it, and then we agreed that this is something we should have in the whole go-to-market team. So then we actually hired two advisors that were experts in go-to-market and medic. We actually had a kickoff in Amsterdam, and they came from Boston, so we flew in everyone to Amsterdam, and then we had training in medic. We had some different cue cards on how to work with it and remember the M for metric and E for economic buyer and so on. And then of course, we after that followed up. So we had medic qualifications of deals. Like, do you have a champion? Do you know the decision criteria and so on? So we made it part of our vocabulary and implemented it in Salesforce that we had at the time. Now we've done it in HubSpot and Gong at Ingrid. So it becomes like a natural way of speaking. And I think that's the way to do it. Just sending out the book and reading it, it will help a little bit. But if you don't make it a part of your cadence and your daily work, it's not going to be fully implemented. And we still have work to do in the medic. There's always things you can improve on. But having that methodology, it really helped us increase the win rate and also the average deal size, which was good.
And why is that? Is that because you are more sort of deliberate or sort of structured around how you actually sell and leave less to chance, so to say, or why does it work?
I think it can be different things, but for us, it was number one, we became more metric driven. Before we sold more like, we have a cool app. If you speak of Quinyx, where now when we implement medic, we're like, okay, what does that mean? How does that impact the turnover in employees? And what does that mean for your bottom line, right? And so we became more accurate on the metrics and the value. And the second thing was, and I think that's important when you go international, in the Nordics, it's a quite flat organization where you don't maybe need to meet the economic buyer. The economic buyer is not as important because the champion, if you speak medical language, has a lot to say. But if you come to the UK or Germany and the US, you have a more hierarchical organization, which means the one who sits with the money is the economic buyer. And if you don't get to the economic buyer, there's usually no deal. So you need to focus on building a champion, and you need to ask the champion to get introduced to the economic buyer. And before, we were really good at building what we thought were champions, but we didn't get to the economic buyer. So I think those two things were the ones we took with us when it comes to that.
I know you have some other suggestions for resources as well.
Yeah. So the revenue architecture, it's a difficult word to say, but from Jacob van der Kooi, with the father behind, the bow tie model and the go-to-market factory. So I think that's a good one. I actually have it right next to me. It's a bit thick, but it's a good book to go through. And then as a leader, you have the Diary of a CEO. I just listened to that one with Steve Bartlett, which is an interesting one. And then I also read a lot of Tony Robbins books, like Awake, The Giant Within, that is more like personal development and these things. So that's from the book side.
That's very cool. I know many of them, but the qualified sales leader is something I need to look into. That's I guess we all, when you get more senior, work with sales, but that one I haven't. I need to look into that. So thank you for that advice. Thank you so much, Andreas, for joining me today.
Thank you. It was great. It was fun.